Charitable gifting comes from the heart and the soul of the giver. Maximizing the gift comes from the timing and the way the recipient receives the gift. There is a mixture of things you have to consider in charitable giving to optimize being a better giver. That means efficient giver. Right? You want to pay attention to the timing, to the taxation, and to the investment nature that you're passing on. We're going to talk about the best way to give your assets, the best way to give your resources to your churches, your charities. We're going to talk about it on Consider This Program today. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Adam Harter.
Happy to have you all along. Hope you're having a wonderful Christmas season. As we're going into 2022, there are certainly things to consider. This whole show really is about charitable giving. And Adam and I are going to try to break that down. If you're not familiar with Adam, he is our Chief Investment Officer. One of my partners, Adam, is a CFA. So, the company, as of the time of this recording, is about $680 million we're responsible for. So Adam and I have big responsibilities. And one of our favorite parts, one of the rewards in life, is really helping people with some of that charitable intent and the things that they're dealing with. And, if you come in and we're sitting down having a conversation, I will always tell you that you have three different assets. You have time, and you've probably heard that before. We all have 24 hours in a day. You have resources. That could be assets like stocks or cash, right? And you have energy. And there is a limited amount of energy that we all have in life. The older I get, the less energy I tend to have. I think it's part of that nature in terms of what's going on. But we're going to talk about the things that you can give to your charities and whether it's better to give the income or the assets or the energy, depending on where you are in life at a given time. It's all going to come down to timing. So, Adam, when I get in my car and I drive to Lafayette for our church retreat for Northview Church that we did just here in October, we get paid for our time, right? Is that deductible time? Is that time that I can take off my tax return when I was in that meeting for 2 days?
No.
How's come?
Well, you're not getting income. Like you're not going to be getting a 1099 for your time to pay tax on the income for it. So
if I don't get a tax receipt, I don't get a deduction.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a CPA.
You're right.
Nor a
No.
CFP.
You were very correct. Can I deduct the mileage?
I don't think so, but again, I'm not a CPA.
You can, but not at the same rate that we pay our team when they drive around the state to go to other places. Okay. There is a when you have a hard cost, there actually is a deduction, but it's not like a normal deduction that you would give. Now,
by golly, I forgot about how many trips I made this year on behalf of a slew of charities.
There's a bundle of them. But here's the point. When the Tax Cut and Job Acts changed from 2017 to 2018, many people, it's now less than 10% of America are able to itemize. The standard deduction winds up being the best for the majority of people. Right. And so we used to worry about that kind of stuff. If I give my time, I don't get a deduction. Well, now if you give your money, in 90% of the cases, you don't get a deduction either.
Right.
Right. And, so you have to be aware of that. We talked about timing. It has to be after December 31st or before December 31st, rather, to be able to be deductible in this year. You can't make a gift in January and try to deduct it on this return. So make sure those deductions are done and ahead of time, and you've got evidence that the check has been written and mailed out and ready to roll. So when you look at time, energy, and resources, time, energy, and money, you don't get anything for your time. Now, when I make a contribution to my church, I just kind of gave us away all the hints on that. Yeah. When I make a contribution to the church and I write a check, can I deduct that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's eligible for that deduction.
It's eligible for that deduction. Absolutely. To what extent?
Well, to the extent it would get to 50% of your.
I think cash is 60% now.
Okay.
I think they upped it. It used to be 50% cash, 30% for an asset. Yeah. So if you were giving away, if you had $1 million stock portfolio and you had $1 million income in a normal year, I think you could give away 60,000 of it in cash or 600,000 in cash if you wanted to.
Okay.
And 300,000, and again, that's why we have CPAs on team. 300,000 if it's an asset. Interesting thing that came out of COVID. It's true again. I believe this year, if it's cash, it's actually up to 100%. That'll go away. They won't let that happen. And it doesn't mean that everybody should be doing that, but it's, the amount that you give is dependent upon the timing, right? So December 31st is like a line in the sand when we talk about family gifting, right? So, your son's getting ready to buy his first house, and you and Andrea decide that you're going to give him $100,000 to buy the house, right? And it's Christmas time, right? I would tell you, assuming he's married when it's time to buy the house, I would tell you under the tax code for 2021 that we would give him $60,000 this year before December 31st and $40,000 January 2nd or January 1st, right? That's after December 31st, right? And there'd be no taxation that he would have to pay on the receipt of the gift and no taxation that you and Andrea would pay. Now, how we get there is you can give anybody you want $15,000 a year. Right? So when I say anybody, I mean Adam can give me $15,000, and I would strongly encourage it. Right? Yeah, I'll give up on that one. But you could walk down the street and give as many people as you wanted $15,000. It's not taxable to you. It's not taxable to them as a recipient, provided the gift is no strings attached. Your son has to be able to do anything he wants to do with that money. Right? This is going to be an important point on charitable giving in a minute, but. So you give the 15, and you gave your new-to-be daughter-in-law 15, and Andrea gave your son 15, and your new-to-be daughter-in-law 15. That's where the 60 grand comes from, no tax. If you gave them the other 40, if you gave them the $100,000 all before December 31st, that $40,000 is going to force you to file a gift tax return, and it's going to come off what's called your unified credit. Right? That's why we want to divide it in that timeline. So if we're doing charitable gifting, right? Now that we're talking about giving to your son is not a charity, even though he may think he is, right? Your church is a charity. So is it better to divide the gift between the two dates or give it all before December 31st?
It could depend on income tax, but assuming there's no timing advantage, which there could be, but assuming there's no timing advantage on your income tax, meaning, 1 year versus the other, then it does not matter. You can give that, again, up to your limitations. Give it all in year one.
You would want to give it all in year one unless there was going to be income variability or you were using our double stack. Right? With a tax deduction, you want that as soon as you can possibly get it.
Sure.
Right, on the return. It's the same deal. It's the same rule with IRAs and Roth IRAs. Roth IRAs, your primary reason for putting in it is for tax-free growth. You want as much of that as you can get at the beginning of the year. So you want to, I will fund our back doors, assuming we're still able to do them, the first week in January.
Yep. Right?
If I was doing tax-deferred stuff, it would be as close to December 31st as I could because I was doing it for the deduction.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Here with a charitable gift, by golly, you want that. You want as much of that on this year's return unless you're using our double stack strategy, where you're trying to go through two sets of charitable gifting in 1 year to be able to maximize that that opportunity to use the itemized deductions. Now, here's where income variability comes into play. So, Adam is a partner, but let's pretend he's just a well-paid individual, and as most CFAs, I think I could say this as most CFAs, that most of them, you live well within your means, but do most CFAs follow that suit? I mean, most of you have a frugal nature.
I would say that's definitely true.
Yeah, it's most of my CPAs are the same way, right? So when you guys retire, typically if you're not a partner or an owner, typically your income goes down dramatically, right? From your taxable income side.
Yeah.
You need to be paying attention to that, folks. I mean, if you're a high income earner, but your standard of living is not high, you want to be making excessive charitable contributions now to be able to plan for your financial journey going forward, right? And this is really where Adam and the team are able to help with what's called donor-advised funds. So I'm not telling you to give your church 3 times more than what you would give them in a normal year this year and then take the next 2 years off. What I'm telling you is there's mechanisms where you can make the gift today, get the deduction today when you're at a higher tax rate, and then still have the ability to direct those resources out when you go there. Now, we've never, I mean, I know you appreciate donor-advised funds. Does the CFA Society have anything to say on these, good, bad, or indifferent at all, or do they just totally, it's a tax thing, so they just leave it out?
No, I mean, absolutely. It would be a very bona fide piece of many estate plans.
Oh, yes, but I didn't know from an investment perspective.
Investment, no, absolutely. It is a wonderful tool. Yeah. And again, it's a tool, so doesn't mean everybody it applies, but for many, it is a wonderful tool.
Yes, and so what I'm trying to do, we talked about this on a show we did previously where we talked about what the biggest surprises were over the last 20 years, right? So if I went back 20 years ago and somebody talked about a donor-advised fund, I would tell you it wasn't a good idea because the investment options weren't really that strong.
Okay.
Things change, right? Today, one of our TD Ameritrade accounts, it's a donor-advised fund, doesn't look that much different than what another investment account, right? So the investment option stayed the same. We're battling now. I love HSA money, health savings account money, right? So, we don't use it. We pay out of pocket for the medical stuff so we can continue to let that money build, but the investments are just ridiculously stupid, right? I mean, there's no good viable option there. That doesn't mean HSAs are bad, but I will be willing to bet you in the next 5 to 10 years they have a better investment option, right?
Oh, totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree on both of those. And if you've got restrictions on a donor-advised fund, my opinion is you're not at the right spot.
I would concur. So you got your ability to gift your time. You're not going to get a deduction for it. But if you're not taking a standard, if you're not itemizing anyhow, it really doesn't matter. You have the ability to give stock. You never want to give stock that's depreciated. You always want to give stock that's appreciated. You don't have to pay the taxes on the capital gains. The charity is able to get it. Now, some people say, well, the charity doesn't want the stock. We will actually, at the Financial Enhancement Group, open up an account on our nickel for the church, move the stock over on our nickel, make the trade to sell the stock. Again, our time is in that. So the church actually gets cash. They have no risk, no investment. You just get a tax benefit. In theory, more money either for you, your heirs, or your charity. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com, 800-928-4001.